Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. On this one, we're back on the rust. You ever have them pesky door bottoms where there's no bottom in the door, the corner's all gone, you got all them problems? Then you're trying to figure out how to go about making this entire piece, gotta put the lip on it, gotta put the corner on it, gotta make all the corner here, trying to figure all that out. In this one, I'm gonna show you how simple it can be. Stick around. So here's what we're going to work on today. We're back on the old Ford cab. This is the one I chopped in previous video. I've done a couple of videos on this. I chopped it. I'm getting around now to doing some more work on the truck. One of the big things with this truck here was there was a lot of repairs done to the bottom side of the truck, and they're not that good. You can see there's a bottom put in the door here, and it's only tack welded in, and it's overlapped. The way it's done there, if you look at it, you can see the way it has overlapped there. They welded a piece in here. This is a decent job done on this here, but the gap is extremely wide here, okay? As you can see, this is the gap I want up here, so I'm going to have to adjust this gap here. Over on this side here, you can see the piece that they welded in here, but here's the problem with this. When you look at it from this angle here, that it sticks out a good bit after the bottom of the door, but it comes up here, it lines up nice, okay? So I got to adjust that as well. So I got to put a door bottom in this, and I got to readjust these corner sections. The inside of this is the same way. You can see I got to deal with some holes in the bottom of the door along there, so I'm going to have to dress that as well. But what I'm going to do here first, I'm not going to bore you with it. I got to see if I can get this door to come off. I want the door on the vehicle, but I'm going to be taking it on and off here and there, and I got to get these pins out. So I'm going to work on getting these pins out. I know everything's lining up now, so I'll make sure that when I shim this here, I put the pin back in it, that it's still going to line up again the way it was there. So I'm going to go ahead, get these pins out, get this door off so we can get started on it. See, if I had proper oxyacetylene, this would be the best kind now. But this is the first time I had to heat something. 4 or 5 years. So that'd be 4 or 5 years of contracts I'd have to deal with. And this would be the very time I'd be out of gas if I did have it. Well, this turned into a nightmare. I've tried to take this off here, I haven't got no heat here, and I figured I'd be able to get it off. This top one popped right out really easy. Just give that a tap, it came out. The bottom one would not move. I've after doing everything with it. I even got it drilled out, but still not let go. I'm in the process now. This here hinge is destroyed, so I'm gonna have to replace that on the door. I went up to my buddy's house. I do not have oxyacetylene here, okay, to heat stuff up. I went up to his place, he had it, and I heated up the pins here. And I can tell you, they had to be blood red to get apart. It is amazing how stiff them pins were in there. I had to save this hinge section here because I got to use this here on that door over there. It was a nightmare. You can see the type of damage I done to the hinge, look, heating it up. The other section of the hinge on the doorpost side. But this is what I was up against. This is all the stuff I was using to try to bang the pins out. It is crazy. Like, there's a pin there. There's an actual bend in the pin. And that was one that I heated up to get out. It was a nightmare. Now, some say, well, you should just go get oxyacetylene. I haven't had oxyacetylene here now in a long time, and I haven't needed it in about 4 years. This is the first time I needed it now, and I went to my buddy's place, and he gave me a hand and heated it all up, and we got the pins out of it. Oxyacetylene here, I've after having it 3 or 4 times here, and the problem with this is the contracts. A bottle of oxygen is a $100 contract a year, and a acetylene is a $100 contract. So you're talking $200 a year for contract. I haven't used it 4 years, 2, 4, 6, 8. $800 I would have spent in contracts and not even using the gas. Now you would always find a use for it. You got a tendency, if you've got it, you overuse it, okay? I wouldn't mind having something here that's a bit more cost effective. I like to find like a small pump setup that I can actually fill myself, and they could sit here for years and I wouldn't have to worry about it. If I come across that, I'll probably buy it just to have here. Be nice to have around, but it's one thing I don't have is oxyacetylene. I had it over the years, I just got clear of it. Had no use for it. But I got to mark, get these here rivets cut off, get this hinge off here. I'm going to have to literally cut the hinge off of this door to get the hinge off of here, cut that off so I get the door off out of the way and I can get that all apart. I don't want to go damaging the door post on that there. I need the doors to come off to do the repairs. As you can see, this one here, the corner of the door is bad. This is the spear doors. It didn't matter, both doors and these bottoms put in them. So I said it didn't really matter. I'm kind of glad now. I never went through the trouble of trying to change the doors when I was chopping the top, because it would have been a nightmare. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to start cutting all this stuff off here. Get that straightened away. Get this hinge off of here. Get this door chopped off. Get that hinge out of the way. Get all that done up. And when I come back, I'll be ready to start doing some patchwork. That one put up a bit of a fight, ended up having to cut some metal out of the way in order to get at the actual hinge itself, because I wanted to save this one here. This one over here, this came apart a lot easier. All I did was I grinded the head off them. You can see here's a rivet here. I grinded the head off them, and then I just pushed it out with an air chisel, out through the pin. And so I got that clear up, and I got the hinge off of that one there now. Now I can actually put that hinge on this door here. Here's what we got. There's the one that I damaged and ruined. This is the new one. We're going to replace it. So I'm just going to put this together for now with a couple of nuts and bolts. I think there's enough clearance on the door to clear it. I just want to put it together with a few nuts and bolts, because I got him to order me in a kit, and I'm going to try to see if I get this door hung. So I'm happy with it, and that way I can start doing work on the door. I'm here rigging up a makeshift pin for now. I'm waiting for a pin kit to come in. I haven't got it here, and I can't find nothing that will actually work for this here, because this is an original pin here. So all I did is I took a regular bolt and I shoved it into the lathe and then just took the grinder, grind it down. I measured it off of this one and just kept measuring it up till it's close. This is only temporary. I just want to be able to get the door on it and be able to say that, okay, I got my alignment close and I knows what's going on there, and I can go ahead and start doing repairs on the bottom of the door. I just want to get the hinges on. Right here, I just got a longer bolt, okay, because I only need this much of the bolt, this much up here, and I want something I can grab in the vise or into the drill, and I'll just grind at the end of it. I'll just take the grinder down, I'll chop that off there and round the edge of it off, and that'll be my pin. And there you have one makeshift pin. Done. I tried getting other bolts. This stuff, a lot of bolts are too big or they're too small, one or the other. I haven't got nothing here in between. It's probably a metric bolt would have fitted nice, but that's it. I'm making do what I got around here. Okay, get that bolted on the door. Going through my nut and bolt collection. I got 4 nuts and bolts now that I can bolt that hinge on. There's enough clearances on the outside of this hinge, I'm pretty sure, for the actual nut to clear it. But this is only temporary, so get this all bolted together now. So I got that all bolted on. Got the makeshift pin put in there. I get everything lined up nice. Door opens and closes, you can see. It's just regular nuts and bolts. And there's clearances there. They don't hit, so that's good. The door actually falls in there. It lands like it do. And it lines up good there. So that's best kind. Now I can get started on replacing the bottom of the door. So here's the repair I got to work on, okay? This here piece was just overlapped, slipped up underneath it, slipped in behind it, and it was tack welded on. They started to weld it up here, and they said, nah, leave it on, it's good enough. So this here got to be cut off. There's a major warpage going on there. It's dropped down really bad there. You can see how much that's dropped there. All along there, it gets worse as it goes along here. So the whole section's dropped, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'll cut that section out altogether. And so now you can see, got a mess, old galvanized tin. I say it's off a duct off a house now, the duct work in the house. First car I ever done, that's what I did it with. An old Astra, put door bombs in it, that's stuff I used. Not good to weld, I can tell you that, you get some sick when they're all galvanized. But you can see I cut it all out. I'm not worried about shape or nothing right now because I got this to go by. I'm trying to keep one piece. This corner here now, it is rugged. So there's a frame here I leave here. I'm going to clean it all up now and get this stuff here out of the way. Over here, I got to let this lower skin go. I'm going to cut the edge off of here and try to save this inner section here. So I got something to go by, just remove the skin right here and get clear of that. I'll grind the edge of this here now and get clear of that. So as you can see, I got that piece. I just grinded a flat here, and then that just pretty well fell off, and then I peeled off it. There was one spot weld here. I got the rest of it out of it. Over here, I just start cutting around where all the welds were to, removing all the metal, so I see where all the spot welds are to. I'm gonna go ahead now with the grinder, clean all this up. So I got everything cleaned up, everything's cut out, and now it's ready to time to start building stuff. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. We got to build an inside section that'll come down here that the skin can mount onto, and we also got to deal with this rotted out corner that I cut out, this braces here. Now, I can't overthink this. This is the shape we need right here. That's all we need is a piece to go like this here. Now you would think to bend a 90 on this here as well and then get the lip at the same time, but here's the problem. If you look at this here, let me turn this around, make it easier to work with, to show you. Over exaggerating it, won't stand up for me, but over exaggerating it, this here goes wider and then comes in again, right here in the middle. So it is wider if you look at that there, look down at it. You can see it there. Right here in the middle is wider than it is out on the either end. So if I bend over this lip, it'll come straight across here and it won't be right. So I'm going to weld this lip on after the fact. All I'm going to worry about right now is making this piece here to come up here. I'm going to make this a little bit longer, and I'm going to make it longer over here so I can shape and make this piece up here. So all I'm worried about is making a box to fit over this first. Not going to overthink this. I'm going to leave this a little bit long here on this end here, so that way I got something that I can actually clean off and make a straight line out of. And I'm going to come up to about here somewhere with the top piece. So I'm going to measure a piece of steel that comes out here, comes down here, probably an inch past that there. And I'm going to measure from here all the way around this corner here to this point here. That will be my overall length for this here, because that'll bring that out about here. Because I want to use the piece that I got to shape this corner. I just want to roll it over the edge of it, trim it up, and weld all that together. So all I'm going to be concerned about is making this piece first. So let's get some steel now and get some measurements and start cutting. I'm here using them old cabinet pieces that I got. I'm getting low on this stuff now. But the piece that I need is 33 inches, which is about right here somewhere. But I only needs it on one side of it, and then it only got to be a certain length. It only has to be this length here, roughly about. But in order to wrap it around the corner, I need an extra length here, which I figures I'm just going to leave this triangle piece in here, and I'll trim this up after so that I can roll around, because it only comes to about here somewhere, 33 though. And this here will give me the distance that I need. But this here only got to be up this long. So I measured the distance that I needed to come up and across here and give me a little bit extra. And I got to cut off at 6 inches there. So I'm going to cut this lip off here. And I'm going to come up here and cut that piece off there and clean up this piece of metal. So I got a piece cut out, and I got one side of it stripped off. This will be the outside, and this will be the inside and part of the bottom. I'm going to leave this here now as a protection on it. So it's got material on it, some sort of paint, because this is almost like a powder coating or something is on these panels. They work really well, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now, in the meantime, I cut pieces out, okay? I'm always too big. I've talked about this a lot. Some people might like to get templates to make the perfect size and cut out the perfect size piece. I like having everything a little bit bigger than what it should be, and that way I can trim it down to fit. It's a lot easier to cut it off than it is to try to weld stuff back on. That was the biggest problem that you would have if you were to make a perfect piece. When you get it all made, you're going to realize, well, there's a little bit of a gap there. I wish it was a little bit longer here. This way here, I got a big enough piece that I'm going to turn around, and I'll have lots of room there, okay? I turned around and went over to measure the door. I'm just going to overlap it now for now, and I measure from this rolled edge up to just below this crease here, and it's 2.5 inches. So that's going to be my bend. I'm going to bend a 90-degree bend on the metal at 2.5 inches off the high side. I got 2.5 inches there and 2.5 inches there, and I'll go bend that up. I got lots of excess down here now. It's for this here to rolling around and stuff like that I can do. But first things first, not going to overthink it. Let's put a bend in this. I try not to think too far ahead. I like thinking one piece at a time, one bend at a time. You can overthink it a lot of times, especially if you got 2 or 3 shapes you got to deal with. And you got a tendency to try to do them all at once, and that really gets confusing. One bend at a time. Just a simple little bend. So, quick little test it. My bend is not right, so I'm going to readjust it. The next thing I want to do now is I just want to get this to overlap up here. So I got to cut the corner off it up here to get this to work right. I'll just cut the corner off that so it overlaps there. I just cut a small notch out of the corner here just so I can get this to overlap here to get this fit where I want it to. So that's fitting there. And I got my rolled edge and it comes up to this edge here. I took a couple pairs of vice grips and clamped it on here. Now you can see I got this over here and I got lots of excess over here, and I'll roll this around to join it on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this corner here. But first what I'm going to do here now is I want to keep returning this back to the same place every time. So I'm going to drill a couple of spots here, put clecos in them so that the actual clecos can actually return this back in the same place every single time. So I haven't got to worry about clamping in it and moving around on me. So I got a couple of Clecos now, just put in all them there. If you're not familiar with them, it's your first time seeing them, this is what they are. It's just a little 1/8 hole you drill. And you put them in like that, and this little handle comes with them. And you can see what happens there, just pushes this out. And then actually when it falls back, it widens them up and it'll hold a piece of metal in place. So that'll fall into a hole there, and you let go of it, and it'll clamp itself and hold itself steady. So now that I got 3 of them there, the advantage of them is I just keep putting this back into the same place. So now that I got that on, what I got to do now is I got to go up, mark this corner here, trim out this corner here, so I can actually start figuring out how I'm going to roll this around. So I marked this here. When it was clamped in place, I just ran a marker in along here to mark this off here. So I'll go over now and I'll cut out this section just right here, and then come over and test fit it. So I went ahead, I trimmed out this corner. You can see the way that's shaped there now. Come over, fit it, and trim it some more, cut it back some more. So now that I got that done, fitting there, what I got to do now is I got to roll this edge around here and get this here to fit. Not going to weld nothing yet. I'm going to just go over now on the bench and just roll this over. It's pretty easy to bend it. And I got to trim it up so that it'll clear here and it'll overlap right here. I'm going to use what I got around. Had to be perfect. There we go. And I come over here and I test fit it. Here, give me an idea how much I had to cut off, and I want it to overlap a small bit. And I just got to go down to here when I lace this flat here to there. So I'm just going to cut that corner out of it, come over and test it again. And I won't cut it out perfect, I'm just eyeballing it there. So right here, that's my first cut. Now this here still has to go in. So the height here is good. It's just that I got to cut this back a little tiny bit more. And I'll just sneak up on it, and I'll trim this up a bit by bit and let that come back in. So I got everything trimmed up here. Wrapped around there, not worried, concerned about it. I got it overlapping up here. And I actually got a gap here because of the angle this is on. If you look across it, it's not a 90 degree. I had to bend it back. So there's just a bit of a gap here. I'm not going to get too worried about it. I got a piece here that I'm going to weld in there. Weld it around there. My whole plan is now is to get this welded up and get this dressed so it looks nice. Not going to worry about nothing else. Let's get this corner all done up here now. Get this welded and get it all dressed up. Now don't that look lovely? Never concerned about it. Got lots of penetration, lots of heat in it. That's good there now. I'm going to let that cool off a bit there now. And I'm going to take it off and I'm going to weld it on the inside. I'm going to put a piece up in this corner because you can see my piece was a little bit small here. I'm going to weld that on there. Grind and dress that up. And I'll have it all welded on the inside. And I'm going to grind and dress this all outside here. Make it nice and round so it looks like this here. So here's where I'm at, okay? You see me weld all the pieces in here. Then I grinded this up on the outside here. I also welded it on the inside. Then I grinded it all up on the inside. I turned around then and then I trimmed it all off so it went along there. And now I got to put it back in place and I got to cleat in place. Now here's the next step. These cleats were temporary. Everything is overlapping. This whole unit has to go that way, okay? You can see the way it's an overlap there now. So what I need to do is I need to scribe this up along here and scribe it along here and also over here, okay? But I haven't got to worry about this side yet because I got to fit this side first. So I'm going to scribe it and then I'm going to cut this to fit right here. So this here will actually slide in place and this will actually be able to butt weld right along here. So I'm going to scribe this here now, take it off and trim all that off. If you look closely, you can see a scribe line going up along there and along there. I'll come up here and I'll just cut this up along here and then trim this all off so this can slide over. As you can see here now, I got it all trimmed out of the way and I got to clamp back in place again. There's a pretty good seam all the way down through here. Just got to go in a small bit here. But I got to clamp down here. I'm not worried about over there. Now, if you look at the cleco holes, I don't know if you can see them there, but the cleco holes are nowhere near where they should be now because this whole panel is moved this way. So these here are useless to you now. And the only way you can do is by clamping it on. But what I got to do over here now next is that I marked the brace that goes down along here. I want to put a few drill holes in this here so I can spot weld this onto that frame that's there like the way it originally was. So I got it marked on the inside now with a marker. I'll take it off and get some holes drilled in there. You can see there now the way I got that all plug welded there, or I got holes drilled for plug welds. So now I'm all ready now and I can start welding this in place because all I'm going to do is do a cut butt along here, cut butt along there, and that'll be it. Not going to worry about this outer lip yet, okay? Because this got a curvature to it and I want to get it right where it's got to be, and I'm going to weld that lip on there as well. Because it'll be kind of hard, fellas will say, well, don't you just bend up the lip like that or put it in a shrinker stretcher and trying to manipulate it. You're getting into too much detail and it's confusing. You got to have a lot of knowledge of that. And to me, I'm just doing this the simplest way you can possibly do it, and that would be to actually weld the lip right onto there. I can do a nice tidy job on it and I get the nice curvature that I want, and then get this corner all straightened away as well. So I'm going to go ahead and now get this clamped in place and get it welded on. Now I'm over here and I noticed too that when I put this in place here, this panel has to go up and in as well. In other words, that the panel here has got to go this way and the panel here has got to go this way. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off this corner here. I got it marked there now. Trim it off so I can actually fit this corner right nice. So this sits properly so that all this here will fall in place later on. Because if I start welding this across here, this here won't line up. These edges are what's key when you're doing any panel fitment. Is always check to make sure that these edges looks good. If you start doing welding up here, you're never going to get this panel to go up. So you can see here now, I got this lining up this way and I got it lining up this way. Okay, so this corner here is nice. Not worried about this up here, just down here. And I got this flush down here. Over here, I got the same thing down here. This is flush here, this is flush here. Down here, I got to bring it in a small bit, and these plug welds are ready to go. I'm not going to worry about none of this up here right yet. I want to get this here tack welded on and get this welded on here, and get that welded on here. Then I'll go up here and I'll start working this section here. So you can see here now, I got that there. That's all flush welded there. Got it all welded solid. I never welded up nothing here yet. And I turn around, I've done all the plug welds, welded them all up. Then I come over here, and I got this one all welded up as well. So now all I got left to do is up along here. Now, I'm going to do the cut butt along there, but I'm going to tack weld it every so many inches first, because this panel here was beat in a lot. And so I got to clamp it in place there, and I got to work my way from one side to the other to get it to fit. I'm going to have to cut it down through there as well. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this tack welded on so I can start doing the cut butt. That's what I was trying to do. I'm here now pulling it up because right here is extremely low. Okay, all along here is extremely low. You look in there, you can see the way it is. So I has to pull it up so I get it to actual line up, right? So that's what I've been doing there, and I've been prying up because all this here was damaged and pushed down. So I had to do the cut butts. Most times it'll fall in place, but this time here I had to pull it up because this here was falling away from me. Go ahead down, I'll get the rest of that finished up and start welding this up. So I got them all tacked about every inch or so. There's the piece that was in behind it that I cut out. Cut it on there. Right? And I got it all, it's pretty good there now, going up along there. What I'm going to do now is just start putting this in here and start tacking my way across, letting it cool down, and getting all that welded up. And that's it for that. So that's the inner structure all done, all that straightened away, all them holes are gone. That's all strong again there. Now the next thing we got to do now is we got to put the lip on this down here. Some may say, well, why didn't you put the lip on it before you welded it in and whatnot? Because this here is always going to be moving when you're moving it down. And I wanted all this permanent, so I know exactly where my lip is going to be along here. Okay? So I got the piece here now. I'm going to turn around, take and mark out, and get my measurements off of using this thing here. That's what I'll use. All I'm going to do is use an item like this here, take that measurement there. Now that got to carry around to about here somewhere on that edge there, and then here in the middle, I got to measure from the middle here. Right, I got to move that down now so that lines up there. Got to drop about another 1/8 of an inch or so, and then I'll come out here and I'll lay that there like so. Mark that, and then I'll draw my line going along like that there, put a ground edge on it. So I went ahead and I took some measurements, marked it out. You can see there, I got that from this here, and I put that there like so, on that there. And I come back over here and I marked it. I measured a couple of different spots along here. Got some measurements, you know, I had to measure this one up here, change the height of it, and stuff like that, and I got the measurements. Then I ran some tape along here to get the shape of it, and then I done a marker on the edge of the tape, so then I got a nice crisp line going along here. And if you look at it closely, you can actually see that it's got a crown on it like this here, okay? Over here was a bit tricky. I had to basically use this corner here to get my measurement to go around the corner, because I never had nothing to go by in this corner. So I just guesstimated at that there and stood back and looked at it and said, yeah, that looks good like that. And then, as you can see, I made some changes along here. I didn't like the way it was looking, so I changed it. So now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop that right off along there. That's all I'm going to do. So I got it trimmed off all the way along there. Now what I got to do is I got to put a lip on this outer edge here. What I want to do, I want to have it the height of this here, so when it's laid flat, it's flat against this here. Now you can turn around and start fitting a piece up tight to this all you want. All I'm going to do is I cut this down, I sanded this down, so this here is the thickness of the metal lower than this panel here. So if I laid something flat against this here and welded it on from the other side, I'll get a nice even thing. I'm not going to worry about trying to make something fit perfect. Like I got this piece of metal here that I cut off the panel earlier, like trying to butt something to that there. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to overlap it like that, because there's a lot of material still on this here, and I'm going to weld it from the other side, okay? I'm going to clean off the back side of this here, and I'll cut it off after. I want to leave it long, okay? I'm not going to worry about putting a little sliver down through there. The larger the piece, the easier it is to weld, okay? Because the heat transfers a lot better, and you have this here got a little edge on it. I'm going to leave the little edge on it to give it strength, so that when I put welds it on, it'll hold it in place. And then I got to put a piece over here. I don't overthink it. I don't try to make a piece to fit here. I'm just going to cut up a piece that'll come close to it and overlap it here, and then weld it on from the other side and do a nice job dressing that edge there. And then I can come up here and I can clean all this off after the fact, and then I can weld it in along here, okay? So that is the plan. Now I may not even weld it in here, because where I'm welding an inside edge, I'm going to be leaving the weld there. I'm just going to dress it up. It should be fine. So I probably wouldn't need to weld this, but we'll see when I get to do it. If I think it needs to be welded, I'll weld it. So I'm going to go ahead, get this cleaned up now, get the door flipped over again, and get this situated so I can get this piece welded on. So I got the door flipped over again. Now, someone might say, well, Tony, why don't you just make the perfect piece to fit on there now, okay? Here's where the problem runs into. One thing I learned over the years is that if you think too much about how a piece fits, you're going to end up fooling something up and getting yourself in trouble, okay? What I like to do, I'm looking at this now, just sizing it all up. I lay that in place here and I bring it over here. And I line it up here where I like it, and I line it up over here I like it. If you look here in the middle, this panel got to go back. Now, you're trying to make this here fit there, and then push in on that there to try to get that to fit in there perfectly. Right? Trying to get that to roll this way. Trying to hold that flat there. It's just too much going on. I'm not going to worry too much about lining this up here, lining this up here. I want to get this shape this way first. I'm not worried about the length. I want it a little bit longer so I can trim it off after. So I'll tack weld it here, and I'll tack weld it here, and I'll work my way and push this back where it needs to be to get the gap that I'm after, and just weld it in there. Not going to worry about how wide the lip's got to be. None of that, because it's too much to think about. You're trying to do 2 or 3 things at once. Right now, I just want to get this piece of metal put in here. That's too long, and both ways, and get it welded in solid, and then I can trim it all after. There's all I done. I tack welded it on there, and I brought it over here and I pulled it down so it's lots of room there, and I tack welded on. Now I'll go back here in the middle and I'll push this back and get this where I want it. I'll tap it back and everything and get this so it's a nice even line right across here. And that way I can go ahead then and just run a bead of weld right along that edge there. So I tapped that in there, got that fit where I wanted to, put a few tacks on it, and then I went ahead and tack welded it on all the way across, so now it's all permanent. This here has a nice flow to it now going this way here, and it's got a nice flow to it going this way here. Not worried about anything else, because I can trim this off after. I'm going to go ahead now and take my time and start spot welding between them there and get this all welded up along here. I got it all welded up. All I did here is welded an inch, skipped an inch, welded an inch, skipped an inch. It's pretty structural strong there. It's not like you're out in the middle of a panel somewhere. So you can get away with running little beads in this here. But I still pulse weld on each one I'm doing it, right? Like I'll pulse weld an inch, pulse weld an inch. I'll skip an inch, that type of thing, right? I'll let it cool down, and then I'll do it again. So never took very long, got it all welded up. Now, you're going to want to try to jump ahead of yourself here. When it's involved with a lot of grinding, try not to get too far ahead of yourself, because I still got to make this piece over here, but I got to let this cool. So I'll start sizing this piece up here, making a piece to fit here. I won't weld it in yet. When it's ready to go, I'll go back and I'll finish this off and grind it all up. Now again, this is too wide going along here. You can see it right here. I did that for a purpose because I want to run a straight edge along that later on, so I can just cut off nice and even and straight. Because when you start welding all this stuff up, things got a tendency to want to move, go all different ways, and then when you tries to put it all on your skin has got a gap here and it's overlapped here and is missing up there. So at least when you leave it long, you can actually cut your straight edge right into it, right? So I'm going to go ahead now, cut this off here and get a scrap piece of steel to fit in here and get it all fitting. Not going to worry about it. I'm going to overlap it as well. I'll just trim it back a little bit so I can get at it inside and grind it better. So I went ahead, you saw me there, just trim that out. I'm just going to overlap it like that there and weld it on there. I'm not worried about the lengths at all. I can trim all that later on. If I tried to make that fit in there perfect, like so, when I weld that on, it's going to move over. Things are going to change. This is going to be really wrinkly. At least I'm out here. I can cut a nice crisp edge on it to where I want it to. And that'll line up there. I'll butt weld it there and I'll butt weld it there. I trim this back here. You can see there's the outer skin and there's the inner lip. I trimmed that back so I had something there to weld to. Now that I got this made, I'm going to go ahead. Now that's all cooled off there now. I'm going to grind it off. And all I'm going to do with that is I got a grinding stone. There's a rolled edges on it. And just going to turn around and get in there. And grind that off like that. That's all I'm going to do. As you can see here, got it all rolled off. And I went ahead, went back and a couple spots I didn't like, so I just tacked them again. Piece spots I missed or whatnot. But you can see it puts a nice rolled edge on the panel itself when you look at it. So this looks like it's come down, it was rolled, it was shaped this way here. So you do all that now and you haven't got to worry about it. When that's all done, I'll dress and grind this in here so it's nice and flat. And I don't even think I'm going to bother weld on the inside because there's still a lot of meat there. Because remember, that was a perfect 90 and now I got a rolled edge on it. So I'll go ahead now, grind up the rest of them there and get that welded in. Nothing fancy. See how simple that was to put in there. Wasn't worried about this end here or this end here about having this perfect corner. I'll worry about that later. All I'm worried about is this inside edge here, getting that looking good and getting it welded onto the existing panel here, getting it welded on the existing panel there. That's it. I'll trim all that up after the fact. It's always easier to cut metal off than it is try to weld it back on, okay? So I'm going to let that cool off there now. Then I'm going to take the grinder, do the same thing with that, grind that off the same way this one here was done. And then we'll have an actual bottom of the door. And there you go. Simple little process. All you're worried about is getting a nice edge in here and having a nice flat edge to work with. All this flows into each other here now. Welded all that. And I welded all this up here, so all this is one piece now. All I got to do now is flip it over, clean up the other side, mark it along here with a straight edge, cut that off, mark it along there with a straight edge, cut that off. And here's what it looks like from this side. It's a little bit of a lip there, nothing serious. Over here you can see there's a bit of a lip where overlap, you can see where it's been welded. I'll go ahead now and I'll take the grinder and I'll clean all this up, get all this looking nice in here before I start cutting off the bottom side of it. So I'll get that cleaned up now, and when it comes back, we'll be ready to chop everything off. So I got that all cleaned up in there, all on this edge now, got a nice rolled edge. I'm not going to bother to weld it up because it's nice and solid there, because the outside still got a good weld on it, or it was welded on the inside, right? And I cleaned all this up here, so all this is smooth here. Now, next thing I do now is I got to cut the bottom lip off of this here. This is how wide it's got to be. I took a measurement from here up to the belt line, and it's 31 3/4 to this lip here, okay? And I measured on the truck, and it's the same on both sides. From here down is 31 3/4. I got a piece of flat bar here now. It's a nice piece of straight edge. I'm just going to move this down here, like so. I'm going to measure from here up to there. Put that at 31 3/4. And to put this one on as well. Clamped it on there. And I'm going to lay the grinder next to that there. And cut that off. Simple. There you have it. Just a simple, straightforward cut. Nothing fancy. Over here I took a straight edge because this here is straight. And I laid it against this here and laid it against here. And I could see where the original inner panel was. And when I laid the marker on, I just laid it so lined up with that and followed the ruler. I marked it out, cut it off. And you end up with a nice straight edge going down through there. Nice straight edge going down there. That's a simple little way of replacing the bottom of a door without overthinking it, okay? There it is on the other side. It was like it was stamped out. you think about this here. This is just a simple 90-degree bend. And then all this here was bent around, welded up solid. Sleeves of metal were put in it, welded up. Then that flowed into the back of the bottom of the truck here. Flowed in up here. I welded a piece on the bottom there. Welded a piece on the bottom there. Welded it along there. Welded it all along there. And you can look at that there now. And you can always put a coat of paint down that if you want to. But that's pretty simple. There's nothing complicated about doing door bottoms. Now, on a car or anything with a rocker panel, this truck don't have a rocker panel. This door floats and there's only the edges of the rocker, or sorry, the edge to the door cab back here. This goes to the door cab. Door cab starts here. And then as the front firewall section starts here, but there's nothing below it. If this was on a car, I've done the same process on my Toyota. If you want to go back, check out the video on the door bottom of the Toyota. If I had rocker panels and quarter panels to deal with, all this here will be trimmed up on the car. I would hang the door again, and I lay it in place, and I get this here where I likes it against the rocker panel and the quarter panel. That's how I do that, instead of just doing a straight edge. This door is a square door all the way along, so it was an easy one to do. But if it was on a car that had rocker panels and everything on it, I'd do the final cut on the bottom on the car itself. That's the easiest way to do it. It's kind of awkward. A lot of people try to do these doors on the bench and then put them on the cars and they don't fit. But in the case of this here, I just got to be concerned about this section right here, this corner, and this corner here, because everything in the middle here doesn't line up with nothing, okay? It's got to have a curvature on it. If you look down across that, it's got a nice curvature to it. Okay? There's a curvature going to that door there now like that, for the skin to go on it. So, but that's it for that. But as you can see, how nice all this comes out here now. Nothing elaborate, all just pieces welded together and then cleaned up after the fact. Everything was made bigger than it should have been. You could trim it all up, make a nice crisp edge all the way along the bottom there. All this here is all homemade, all made with simple tools. So there you have it. A simple door bottom. Nothing elaborate to that. No major tools. Little cotton butt up along here. Okay. Little cotton butt down through here. That's a cut to fit down there. There's just cotton butt up along there. Yeah, and a cotton butt in through there. With a partial cut to fit down through here. But you can see that there is 1, 2, 3 pieces of metal. And you look closely at it. You can see, yeah, it looks good. You had to worry about all this rotted out corner, this rolled edge, right? The bracket that was in behind it. You had to deal with some of the hinge up here, trying to straighten that up. There was a lot of work involved in doing this here. Now, the issue is that all my big metal that I have here in the shop is all used up. So I got to be creative and put the skin on the outside of this here. But I'm going to save that for the next one. This one here, I'm going to leave. There's been a lot of information on this here. This video is getting pretty long. So I'm going to leave this one here. Door bottoms, made easy. Anyway, I hope the tips were good. And until next time. So I'm just going to not have to worry about that. I'm going to put this up in place here now. Tack welded here, tack welded here, and roll that up. Hey, old peanut. That's what I use. What do you want? Huh? Peanut. What? That thing you bits, give it up.